Good morning, Yorkshire Classic Cars Limited fans. Hope you've taken a chance to like and subscribe to my videos, or had a look through all my videos. The last video I did on the Spitfire here, I had got to this section here. I'd removed the outer panel, which is down there on the floor, in the scrap pile. Okay, there she is. You can see the rust hole in it. And I trimmed out this section here where there was a little grot in there. And what I'm going to do today is make a section that's just going to come across here, down here, up here. And then what I'm going to do is come straight down that edge. This piece here, probably quite difficult to see, this piece here that I'm twanging isn't welded in there, but it does continue up and up and up and up and up over the car. So what I'm going to do is, this should have been spot welded together through this panel, obviously through both panels, obviously. So what I'm going to do is leave that in, and I'm going to leave about a 1mm gap down there, and I'm going to stitch all the new section in and those two pieces together. But I'm also going to drill that first and spot weld that through before or after. It doesn't really matter actually, because it'll be seamed all down once it's seamed on the inside. I think that'll make a better repair than trying to unpick it all. Then my piece is going to go up here, slight overlap here, and then I'm going to spot weld through into these sections here. I'll show you first how to make a pattern, and then we'll get on to sticking it in with the old welderoonie. Thanks a lot. So, hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I've got a piece of gasket paper, purely because it's pretty much large enough to do the job. I don't usually use gasket paper, to be fair. However, he says, I usually just use a piece of old corrugated card from a box I've had delivered or something like that. But I haven't got any at the moment, so this is going to do the job. It's fresh gasket paper. It actually makes really good patterns. But it's not what I'd normally use. So I'm going to try first threading that in there. So I'm getting a rough angle, really. And I'm going to trim that off, purely to allow the piece of card to come back a little. Obviously I've done this before, so I'm reasonably conversant with it. Take a little more out of that angle. It's not magic, it's not rocket science, that is a fact. I'm no rocket scientist. Obviously people wonder why you don't just straight make it out of steel. The reason for that is it's a blooming sight easier to make pieces out of card than it is out of steel. So I'm just carefully trimming it, really, to give me a rough idea of where I'm going to be. I need it to sit larger than the section. Okay, so that's me datum here at the back. I'll take a little bit more off that, tiny bit. That's better, so that fits nice and square into there. Now, there is going to be a small gap once I've made the section. But for now, I just want that to fit like that. Right, so if I just pause you there a second, get my ball-peen hammer. Okay. Now, in all honesty, this method doesn't always work. But I'm just going to try and do that across there. And hope that I'm doing it on the piece I need to keep. Yeah, that's the top part there. That's like that. Just check again. So it's worth triple checking. Now, this is a lot easier when you literally just cut the panel. You can see the lines starting to form there, hopefully. Now, I'm not going to cut it really tight for that initially. I'm going to leave about sort of 4mm, 3/16 of an inch, something like that. And hopefully that's in the right place. Famous last words. You'll see why I'm just doing that roughly for the time being. And all being well, that should now fit to there and still cover the piece I'm replacing is a good start. It does. Okay. Now, as I alluded to earlier, I'm going to leave that longer. I'm just going to nick that with my thumbnail, so that gives me a basic guide where I'm going to go there. It's a little bit like trying to sort of catch an octopus. And you're kind of guessing where the edge is here. I think that's a pretty good shape. What I'm hoping to do is to slide this up the back of that panel and then just draw around it. If that's not possible, then I'll still use it as my pattern. And I'll just trim it to suit so there's a minimal overlap on it. Yeah, that seems pretty good. I think I've gone a little bit off there, a little bit sharp on that corner, but I'm not too bothered about that. So hopefully, it's not going to do it, I don't think. Still welded in there, unfortunately, so I can't do that. But that's a pretty good shape. It's a pretty good fit. I've gone a little bit out there. But you know, this isn't rocket science sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do now, if I can find my pencil that I put down. Again, checking it's in the right place. It isn't there. Look, I need that in there like that. Oops, double like rats. Chat my dad used to say that instead of swearing, he used to say double like rats, and it kind of stuck. I used to be a school teacher, so obviously I've got degree level qualities of swearing. Teaching will teach you that sort of thing. So yeah, just give me a rough guide of the shape I need to cut. Obviously this is, I'm going to cut this larger when I cut the section, but it's just to give me a rough idea. Because I'm going to trim that back afterwards. You'll see why. It makes life so much quicker and easier. I'm just going to cut that off for now. I'll probably keep those larger pieces of gasket paper, in all honesty, because they are still of use as small gaskets, so they may end up back in the box. Now, there's a couple of little issues appearing there, most notably there where there's a kink in the section. That's the original piece that has a gap there to the new piece. So I'm going to have to sort of trim and adjust that ever so slightly. So if I just go down the back of here, and that should. The problem with this gasket paper is it has a habit of moving away from where you're trying to when you put the pencil against it. It moves really easily away. It's like soggy paper. It's weird. So that should be that, really. Shows what a bizarre shaped piece I need there. Now, actually, you'll all see a mistake I've made there, and it's quite a sizable one. Okay, so I've faux pas there. Put my hands up, hold my hands up, and say I have dropped one. So what's happened is I've cut that off there to follow the boot floor line, and I shouldn't have done. I should have left it down and across here. So what I need to do, this you see is the advantage of making a cardboard pattern, is that I've dropped one there, so I've cut the wrong bit off. So all I need to do now is tape a bit back on, like that. Dead easy. Which is what you can do with cards in no time at all. So now I put that back on the back of there because, you know, I faux pas accidentally on purpose, I'll acknowledge, but, you know, to prove how I'm doing it. I'm not a liar, I'm sorry. I'm not very good at lying. Always tell the truth. It's difficult to have friends when you tell the truth. They don't always like to hear it. Learned that over the years. But hey, I'm not here for counselling, I'm here for welding. Right, so that's now repaired that section. Just trim around the top of it. Find the scissors, yep. So the top section was fine. Back around there. And boom, I've now reinstated the section that I cut off inadvertently. And of course that needs to be longer now. So I can now just tweak that. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to come from here to here. In a nice sort of continuous curve. I'm going to go like that. Like that. Okay, so that's my section outline made. It's a little bigger than I need. As you can see here, there's sections I could trim off there, and I will. Thus. But that's a decent pattern now. Okay, so that'll fit in there. Minimal overlap. Just enough to stitch it together, and as you can see at the edges, it goes over here. So it's about 1/4 of an inch too big. Now, if I try that on the replacement panel, just to make doubly, triply, quadruply sure, okay, it does ever so slightly overlap. It says, famous last shapes. Okay, that needs to fit onto there. That needs to fit onto there. So, as you can see, it overlaps ever so slightly, but all that I can cut off afterwards. Okay, no big deal at all. Right, so I'll pause you there and I'll make the piece of steel. So I'm going to transfer my pattern now to a piece of steel now. I don't know if anybody remembers this when they were at school, but they always told you to cut your sections close to the edges, mostly to save materials, I'll acknowledge, but it never, ever, ever fails to amaze me that people just can't do it. You'll see it in videos. I watch them on YouTube and Insta and stuff. And you'll see somebody get a big massive piece of steel and go, right, boom, right, slap bang in the middle. I have no idea why. Don't get me wrong, I get it if, you know, if your shape isn't perfect and blah, 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 but it always seems hugely wasteful to me. But obviously there's an awful lot of steel left in here afterwards. Now, I'm just using a pencil here. And I'm going to cut it with my trusty guillotine that you can obviously see in the shot there. I can do this whole cut with the guillotine, and I prefer to do that than to use the angle grinder. Now then, that doesn't mean I'm right, and if you use the grinder you're wrong, nor does it mean I'm wrong and you're right if you use a grinder. I know people who like to use the grinder for everything. I don't. And it's just horses for courses. It is purely whatever you prefer. I can do it quicker this way, and I prefer to do so. But that doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong if you do it a different way. Excuse me, tools left on there. I'm terrible for not tidying up properly. The problem is, when you're in your 50s, and I appreciate I'm only very slightly in my 50s, I do create a series of parabolic curves. If you're not sure what a parabolic curve is, Google it. I'm sure it will come up there somewhere. And having rushed around a lot, I've also ruined this set of metal shears. Don't know if the Americans call them a guillotine or shears or whatever. I suspect they probably call them shears. I think I've heard that term. So sorry if you're in America or Australia and you use a different expression for a guillotine. Obviously I'm right and you're wrong on that occasion, but you know, who knows? I am joking when I say these things, by the way. I'm not trying to be serious. I'm never really serious. I'm always joking pretty much. My little girl sometimes looks at me and goes, "Ooh." when I say something, it's like, you do realise I am only joking, don't you? I'm not serious at all. Very rare I'm serious. That's too short. So I'm just slicing that off now across the top. Now I'd love to say, having cut across the top there, that I just knew I was going to hit that mark, but I really didn't. You can actually angle your cut a little on the guillotine if you slew it up or down a little. It'll allow the cut to curve a bit. That said, it won't allow you to curve massive pieces like that. So I'm now going to trim that with the tin snips. So rescuing me tin snips from what I've got you resting on. I assume you can see me there. Yeah, these are some really old tin snips. I got these from a Auto Jumble, which is like a car boot, sell for car parts if you're not aware. And they are fantastic. They're like Gilbo shears, and I've had them, gosh, must be 40 years, nearly 30, 40 years, and they are brill. I've never had to sharpen or anything, just had to tighten them a little bit on the nut. These are some aviation shears. Now, I quite like these for aluminium, and they are easy for cutting corners, I must be honest, on occasion, but I've ruined them. These are Blue Point, so the Snap-on sort of second brand. I bought these many years ago when I was working in a scrapyard, and the Snap-on van used to come in, and I asked him for some really good quality Snap-on ones, and when he gave me the price, it took me a week to recover, so I bought Blue Point ones, which was still expensive, and I have really kind of ruined them. They still work, but they just can be a little bit sort of argumentative over something, so I tend to stick to the Gilbos. I will say, if you cut with tin snips and stuff, you get a little sort of stretch in the panel as you cut. If you want to avoid doing that, okay, don't close the shear. So as you get to there, don't let it go all the way. Just keep easing it and doing a shorter cut. It'll take you a couple of seconds longer in the long run. However, it'll stop you having to sort of hammer it all flat again and faff about with it. It's one of the reasons I don't like an angle grinder to cut curves with and things, is the horrible burrs and things it leaves. And plus, I struggle to see where I'm going with the angle grinder. So as you can see, I've formed that curve there. There's very minimal distortion in the metal. There is distortion, obviously. Anybody who says they can do stuff like this without distorting the metal is a liar. I'll no doubt end up saving all those naff little pieces of steel, because I've mentioned it before, I'm a closet hoarder. I consider this me coming out as a hoarder now, out of the hoarding closet. You actually know what a closet is. What is it? Is a closet a cupboard in real English? The Queens. The Kings now, actually. King Charles. Hope he has a speedy recovery. Well, I hope he can recover from his illness. Very poorly at the moment. And Kate. Don't know him, obviously, so it feels a bit rude to be using the first names, but you know, I'm not particularly a royalist. I certainly won't wish any illness on anyone. I'm nothing against them. And that is that. Okay, let's try her in position. So I've zoomed in a bit, and in the interest of honesty, okay, because I am honest, I like it, I loathe it. This is exactly as cut. Okay, so you should be able to see that is exactly as I cut it. I haven't trimmed it, I haven't cleaned it up with the angle grinder. It's exactly as I did it, just to show you what I'm going to do next. So I'm now going to set that in position. I can already see some areas that will need attacking. So for example, if I grab my pencil now, line up my datum line, I can see that corner here has a little bit of metal left in it that I haven't cut out and doesn't need to be cut out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that across there. Okay, just a scruffy mark. Make sure we're in the right place. Don't want to remove too much material. Oh, pretty blooming good to me, actually. So, back to the job in hand. Grab my aviation shears. Now, if I cut a little too much off that corner, not too worried, I can fill that full of weld and make that one real solid piece. Okay, so not the end of the world if I take a tiny bit too much. Now the angle's a little bit off and I know I can't do it with the shears, so just clean the edge off with the angle grinder just to remove the angle a little bit, change the angle a little bit so it fits a little better there. That's better, much better actually. And then what I'm going to do, I'm using my mouldy old grips. Just going to get that loosely in place here. Famous last word. Didn't tighten the grips. And this is why I'm not a presenter on Top Gear. This isn't the only reason. I'm obviously way too good looking. Right, so that's held up there. So I'm just going to draw a line down the back of here, a nice bold line. That shows me where the edge of that boot floor is. Not bothered about the valance particularly at this stage. Because as I said before, I'm going to leave that a little longer for that. But what I need to do now is drill the holes for the spot welds. Normally I could do that afterwards, and I do quite like to do that because it cleans the steel and it kind of thins it a little bit and gives you a nicer spot weld. However, on this occasion, I can't see it. So once this is welded in, it's all, I'm working blind where the holes are. So, all being well, you can see there that I've marked all the way around. You can see where the holes need to be. So they need to be about, if I'm holding that in the right place, so they need to be about sort of 1/4 of an inch above that all the way down. So what I'm going to do with these, just drilling around that edge that I said about, above the line. I'm going to drill through, this is a 5mm drill bit. Now normally I would have a clamp on here, but I don't have one, so I'm not using it. Well, I do have one, but I'm not using it. Whip that off. I like to make sure there's no burr on here, purely because then it makes a tighter fit when it goes together. Just going to just tap that out a bit. Not looking to stretch the metal. Don't want to knock hell out of it. I'm not trying to teach it a lesson. Just want it to be nice and smooth and straight. Obviously don't run your fingers down the edge for very obvious reasons. The outside edge doesn't matter anyway, because once I've welded that, that'll be smooth again. So next, if I put that in there now, where we set it up, with about 1mm gap. I'm only setting this up loose at the moment. I can still adjust it, obviously. So the clamps here are more to hold it in place whilst I get set up rather than to actually finish set it, you know. Bit there, but no, there's not a lot I can do about that. I might be able to get a tech screw in there. I'll grab my tech screw debacle. Tech screws are actually great. I can't remember where I got these. I think I got them off eBay. And they come with a magnetic bit holder, but the problem is all the muck and grindings fits in the bit holder. Still the bit holder. Let's try to put the screw in. It won't stay in. And it's a great idea in theory. That's better. That's coming lovely now. And clean them on the inside. But yeah, quite pleased with that actually. Look at that. Get the welder out and start attaching it, I think. It will improve once I've started welding it. This will hold together tighter. I'm going to dress that piece there. That massive gap was. That needs to go one way or another. Like that. Going up straight away. It's good. That's gone good actually. Yeah. We'll go for a weld there, I think. So yeah, you can see now that I've fitted that panel in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the welder out and glue it on. I say glue it, sorry, that's just it's just something I've always said. To approach the work, okay, this is the repair section with its very minor overlap there now. I'm going to weld all the way down here in a complete seam all the way around there and all the way down this edge here, and then spot, 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 spot. The first weld will be wherever it's touching here. This will not be start here and work my way around because some of it's touching better than others. Can I get a few tacks on? Probably. What we'll find is once I've welded these sections here where it's touching really nicely, so probably this first inch here, somewhere there, maybe here, and then I can dress that because that will give it strength. As I'm hitting this now, that bends in, this bends in, and it continues. You know, the forces are all equal, so as I hit that, it bends the other piece behind it as well. So once I've got this stitched together a little, I'm increasing the strength of this because it's all held together here. This here is a nice flat fit on the back of there, so that's a good fit. I'm happy with that. Sorry, bit of silicone on the inside there. I'll also weld up these where I've just nicked it with the angle grinder. It hasn't gone right through, as you can see there. It hasn't gone right through, but I can weld those up pretty easy because it's a good solid piece, that. And then I'll get all this painted. Right, so I'll nip and get the welder, and off we go. So I've got the welder out. Mask is on. I've set it to number 3 there on the settings of number 7. I'm on number 4 on the wire feed there, so not a hugely fast wire feed. May need a little less. We'll see how we get on with that. The gas is set up. The earth is onto the original bodywork here. Nice clean earth, I hope. We'll see how we get on with that. And what I'll do is I'll set you up. So, got a good fit here and here, which is good because that corner is actually a good section to start on. So what we're going to do is little tack like that, okay? Hopefully you can see that from there. Just a nice little seam. Dash, dash, dash like I usually do. Let's give it a little tap now. Dress that in. And that pulls in lovely now. You'll only get so far. You won't be able to dress the whole section. But that's welded up to there as well. That'll weld up to there as well now. So I'll give that a go as well. Lovely. That has gone really, really well. Quick glance on the inside. Are we on fire? Not yet, so we must be doing something right. I'll continue now around here. I don't know if that's actually tight enough. It might have just moved a little. I think so. If we burn a hole, we'll know it isn't. So hopefully if I just flick the welder off, should be able to just see that's now one nice continuous weld all the way along. He says, famous last words, can't show you. There you go. Okay, so that's made a nice neat weld across there. Obviously this will just become a wobble in the panel once I've ground it back. I will grind all that back, even though you never see it. That doesn't matter to me, I like to get rid of it. But this is the quality you get when you take your time and just give it that tap and do a little at a time. If you just race into it and you try to fill gaps and holes, it will take you longer in the long run. You are much better to just do it right in the first place. Racing around just honestly makes a mess. So now I've got that corner welded and all that top edge there. You can see from where this is where I haven't wire wheeled it off. I'm now happy that this piece is part of this piece, so I can put my earth on there, which should help you to see that piece, really, if I'm honest. I'll try and weld it from an oddball angle so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to just pinch it in like that. Do I recommend doing that? Not at all. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing there and I'm not stood in front of it. Sorry if I am. So that, as they say, is that. Let me wind you down to a normal size. There you go. So that is now a full seam weld across there. Okay, not going to touch it for quite obvious reasons. You have to remember, whatever heat you start off, and I say this in every video, but it is true, your welder won't work the same as mine, unless it's the exact same make, exact same age, and has either the exact same life. They're all slightly different, inevitably. Do recommend an Oxford welder, by the way. Obviously, I'm not getting paid by Oxford, but I've used one of those when I was teaching engineering. Their welders were absolutely fantastic. Not that I don't love this welder. It's made by Sabara, but I mean, it's 30 odd years old, so you'd never find one. Anywho, that's the plan. Welded this corner up, a little tiny bit of a burn through there. That was entirely my fault. Nice seam weld all the way down now. That is one beautiful straight line all the way. Now, I know nobody's ever going to see that straight line. I know it full well. But I know it is also correct, and it is also 100% part of the car now. Now, I do have to weld down here, all right, in a seam, and the gap at the bottom is larger than I really wanted, but to get the fit, that's kind of what I went with. So that I'm going to do next, and then I'm going to plug weld these before I start doing any grinding. I don't do any grinding until everything's done, purely because I don't want to thin down the metal where I'm about to weld, because obviously it affects its characteristics. So I will get these plug welded and that seam welded, but that first, and then we'll continue on with the next step. So I've taken the liberty there of welding all the way around, and welded up these bits here. You can see, you just need to run the grinder over those. Seam welded this, turn the welder down a tiny bit for that. Don't really know why. It all seems to weld weird when I turn it down. And the next step is to pull in these spot welds and spot weld those through all the way around. Not really sure how I'm going to approach this. I think I'll probably start next to the one with the tech screw in. I have a blunt chisel that I knock those in, and then I'll just steam weld them in. What I'll do is, now I've turned the welder up 1, so I've gone up to 4 there. We can, oh my days, sorry about this. Try and get you up on 3, there you go. Right, so, if you don't have one already, mine's over here because I was using it yesterday, but I have a very, very, very blunt chisel there, so the end is ground off square. I didn't make it, I inherited it actually from a my dad's uncle. But it's very good for just persuading metal in like that. Now again, don't want to go too wild with this because it's just moving the piece inside. If I can see, it's moving that inside. So what I'll do is I'll do that one first, and then that gives me a little bit of solidity for the two pieces. So I'm just going to talk you through this first one, and then I'll just montage the rest, or I'll just do them and come back to it. But yeah, so same wire feed. Make sure you can see what you're doing again. A little more wire. There's two ways of doing this. I tend to just start either at the top or the bottom. Get a really, really good heat on it, and then give it a little tap with the hammer. I don't know why it pulls it together. It pulls it together. Now, that weld, I'm hoping I've focused in on the right one. That isn't how I like them, if I'm really honest. I should have had a bit more heat on that. The material I'm welding to is obviously thicker than I thought it was. Just check if that's a hole through. That's a hole through, is that one? So I'll probably stay on the same power. I usually like to go up on about a number 5 or a 6 on my welder. That's purely so it really burns hard in there, and I'm absolutely conscious I'm not welding up just the hole. I will go up an extra one. It may burn a big hole through, we'll see. I'm going to start where it's thinnest. Yeah, it's gone messy, that one, I'm afraid. However, I've still managed to weld up a piece of 1mm steel on about 150 amp. So yeah, that one I should have done the same way. However, I didn't. Yeah, I like to get a better burning than that. I'm going to go back down to number 4. You have to try different things. You can't just go, oh, you know, I always do them on 4. Now, this one I obviously need to do on 4 because there's a hole all the way through there. I'm going to try the other method on this, which is just to put the tip on solid like that. And as you can see, that does a nice job too. I will be grinding these flat again after. Obviously, I wouldn't just leave them like that. That's a good one there. I think I'll get that one next. So there you go. That's it all welded up. Just needs the flat disc running over it. That's straight out of the welder. I haven't ground anything back. You can see this is muck that's come through. So this is silicon that's burnt through the hole as I've welded it. Obviously with the heat involved, you can see what it's done to the paint on the outside. This is where the welds were just a little bit close to the edge, but that's not a problem at all. I can deal with all that. That's no worries. That's made a good repair in there now. Strong, firm, solid. So I'll draw this video to a close there. This is the section. Obviously I've ground those welds back. Just need to take a little bit more off that. That was letting it cool. That's the piece all welded in. Hope you like that. I think it's done a nice job. Seam welded down here, but welded together. I can feel the burn through on the other side, so that's good. This is a nice smooth finish now. Barely anything at all there. And all the spot welds are ground back. The one here, I actually had to put a tiny little bit more weld in because it turned out when I ground the head off, it hadn't quite burnt through. But good fit on that. I'll just take the ramp up, pause you for the ramp because it is literally the slowest ramp in the world. And you can see there how it's burnt the paint off the, hopefully you can see that. Let me get a torch. So all being well, you can see there, you see how it's burnt all the way through. I will of course dress those on this side, but it shows it's burnt through really well. You can see that the welds are really good on there. Hopefully it's focusing in. Is it? Oh, no, there you go. If you like the video, please like. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I do lots of this sort of stuff, so if you're enjoying this, there'll always be something in there for you. And at some point, I'll have the Capri running. I've ordered the ECU. So yeah, next will be that sealed and painted on the outside, on this side, as you're seeing it. I call that the outside. It is, of course, the inside once it's all finished. But I'll bob a little bit of paint on that now so it can be sealing it, ready for when either the wing or the outer goes on. I think we'll probably just go in with an outer, but that's fine by me. Okie dokie, see you next time. Bye.